So we're going to get some questions from you guys. I'm just going to come out with the crowd and grab it from you. So start with the time.
Great YouTube moment, so keep your cameras out, okay?
Now, Joe, I was introduced to your work thanks to Marvel Knights. The big, I feel like it was the tent revival of what made some of these characters so great.
Tent revival, I like that.
It was I don't want to go overboard, but it was nearly a religious experience, let me be honest. But we had Daredevil, we had Black Panther, we had the Inhumans, we had the Punisher. You were given this small stable of characters and told, here, just run wild, do what you want with it. What led to you getting the reins that ended up proving you into the position you find yourself in today?
What it really came down to was that I had my small company called the Bankrupt with Jimmy Palmiotti, and our managing editor, Nancy Keegan, who eventually became Nancy Quesada, and the managing editor of my life. But
this was a smart business move.
Believe me, trust me, it was the right strategic. If you talk about one thing that I've ever done that really saved my career, that was it. But we had our small publishing company. Marvel was in Chapter 11. They just come off of the Heroes Reborn thing, image and stuff, and the company was still shaking. The whole industry was shaking. And literally, running my own independent company at that time, every month the sales would come in, and everyone in the comics industry would go, like, my God, I can't believe how low sales are. This has to be rock bottom. Then the next month, and they were lower and lower, and we just didn't know where rock bottom was. So the assumption could be rock bottom is zero, and we're all looking for jobs, as dental assistants or something, So Marvel sought Jimmy and I out. They realized that as a small 3-person company, we managed to get a lot of press. We managed to do a lot of sort of guerrilla marketing and anything it took to promote our books. And we had a really good reputation in the industry as sort of decent, solid human beings. I remember meeting with the then president of Marvel, a gentleman named Joe Calamari. We called him Joey Squid. Everybody, you gotta call him Joey Squid.
Joey Squid sounds like the next big, bad that Daredevil's going to go after.
Yeah, well, at that point, we didn't do any deal with Marvel or the Mafia. I don't know. It's one of those. But I assumed it was Marvel. So Joe was great, and he was just, at that point, it was desperation, right? So sometimes, desperation can be the mother of invention. So Joe talked to us and said, if I was to bring you guys into Marvel, what could you do? What would you do? And he left with it. And we had this really nice dinner, get to know each other dinner. And then he left us to think about it. So, but the scenes were planned. And I remember that night, Jimmy and I went back to my apartment. I lived like 2 blocks from Marvel. And we were sitting there going, hey, what do you want to do? What do you think? Well, he's obviously offering us a packaging deal, right? And so maybe what should we take? And I literally telling Jimmy, we should ask for all of them.
Give us a whole lot. Just give us everything.
I said, let's ask for all of them. Let's tell him that we could be co-editor-in-chiefs and run the entire division. They're never going to give us that. I said, I know. But then we asked for 4 books, and they'll give us 4 books. And this is what Jimmy and I did everything at that point. We'd shoot to the moon and we'd spitball over each other. And I was just wondering those ideas. Okay, so what do we want to ask for? All right, we both loved the Punisher. There was no Punisher book out, right? I had an incredible affection for the Black Panther since I was a little kid. And there was no Black Panther book. We thought Inhumans. There's no Inhumans book. And one reason we were thinking this way was because we had also known internally what Heroes Reborn had done to the staff of Marvel when corporals were just pulled away from them and gone out west to people that had abandoned the company a long time ago. So we wanted to make sure that we were treading on ground where there was nowhere to go but up, right? So, but Daredevil was the legitimate. Daredevil was my Marvel character. And as it turns out, Daredevil was on the brink of cancellation. So we came back to Joe, we used 4 books, and we thought about it, and it took a little while, but then it came back, and the deal was struck. Those were the 4 books we got.
So with Daredevil in particular, as the crown jewel of your kingdom of 4 books, you did something that was not normal then. You brought in this wild outsider from the crazy land called Hollywood or New Jersey, depending on where you want to say Kevin Smith is from. Did that name come to the top of your mind? Is this the writer that I want to take a shot at?
No. I want Frank Miller.
Look, I think Kevin would be offended.
No, Kevin was the first time. Because we had met Kevin prior to this when he was filming Morons. And we became very, very good friends. And then we talked about doing something in comics together. And he lamented the fact. I remember going to lunch with him at some diner in Red Bank. And he said, I can't believe it, man. I got Clerks, I got Morons, I got all this stuff going on. Nobody asked me to do a comic. And my stuff was just about comics. And nobody asked me. It's one of those things where sometimes, I think people are just afraid to ask what they feel interested in. So when this came around, Kevin was the first person who called. And he agreed immediately. Absolutely going to do it. Absolutely going to do it. So, and I remember a very fateful moment because Kevin, now mind you, Daredevil was, what Spider-Man is to Marvel as a whole, Daredevil was that to Marvel Knights. He was the most recognizable character of the 4 that we had chosen, and he was the linchpin, and he was the book that I was going to draw, right? So it was our launch book. It was the first one out of the box. We had no script, nothing. Kevin couldn't come up with an idea, and then he calls me. We've struck a deal with Marvel. His papers are signed. We got Kevin Smith through this book. Everybody's really excited. I get a call from Kevin. Can't do it, man. Can't do it. Kevin, are there any kids in the audience?
Nope.
Can we
Kevin, what the fuck are you doing?
We're gonna go Kevin Smith rating. He's got his own rating.
Joe, I'm sorry, man. I can't. I just
do it, Joe.
I just don't have any ideas. I don't want to do it. And Jimmy and I are good cop, bad cop, right? Or, I don't know what to do. I'm sorry to let you down. It's okay, Kevin. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I tell Jimmy, what? So Jimmy calls Kevin. Like the next day, a couple days later. You let your friend down! You suck! What's wrong with you? How can you do that? Next day I get a call from Kevin. Hey man, I got an idea for you.
You just need to insert some Catholic guilt into it. Kevin Smith is awesome.
It was unreal. But even with that, right? So we go. Promoting Kevin, the whole thing. Kevin starts filming. I take back. I met Kevin. Which came first? We're actually chasing him.
Morons.
Right. So then we did something chasing. Right. And then we started filming film. And the deadline's coming up. No script. Days go by. No script. No script. No script. Finally, I get 3 paragraphs from Kevin. This is kind of what, I think it was 2 paragraphs. This is kind of what the story is supposed to be, but no script. And now we get to the point where if I don't start drawing now, that first book is going to ship late. That would have been the end of the imprint. It would have been over. None of this. So I just started drawing. I started drawing the story based on the 2 or 3 paragraphs that Kevin gave.
You took a story that was going to be full script, and suddenly you're doing it Marvel style.
And by the way, I think these 2 or 3 paragraphs are for 2 or 3 issues. So, you just have to break it down, right? And it's the only way to do it. And then eventually Kevin ended up dialoguing those issues. But we ended up falling behind somewhere around issue 3 or 4. We started shipping late. I told a story to a fan earlier today where before working at Marvel Knights, this is when I married my wife, before working at Marvel Knights, it was a bit of a deadline problem. I wasn't getting stuff, I was too detail-oriented, I wasn't getting stuff done the way it should have been done. So I had a reputation, and people were already saying, oh, Marvel Knights is going to ship late, because of, Jeff. And then we eventually did ship late. So like I said, I did issue 4, we should ship late. And the reason for that was because I just couldn't get the scripts. And I finally got the scripts ready. It was so behind schedule at that point. There was no making it up, sort of.
Hey, you're a very busy, important man. Mickey Mouse is calling, and he's going to have to wait.
That's probably Kevin Smith calling me. What the fuck, dude?
Man, I got listening devices in the fucking theater, dude. Shit.
So, but what happened was at that point was that the last thing I wanted to do, because there was so much stuff about guy from Hollywood's committing to comics, you know what I mean? He's gonna screw it up for everybody. So I didn't want to say Kevin was late. So I got out there and say, it's me. I'm really behind.
It's me. I'm just not happy enough with my own work.
But also somewhere around the fourth issue, and Kevin, we were telling you this as well, you could tell that he all of a sudden got it and started understanding how to write for comics. And those scripts from that point on became so unbelievably good to work with. But listen, if it wasn't for Kevin, again, I wouldn't be sitting here. I don't think Marvel would be in a lot of positions he's in, because he took a shot. He took a shot with me, with Jimmy, with Marvel Knights, with a company that was in Chapter 11. And again, you know, he just tried to really peak as a creative force, as a director, as a personality, and he was jumping from the big pool into the little pool. And that's really risky, because if you fail in the little pool, that does affect what you do in the bigger, you know, the bigger industry. So, and because of Kevin, I think a lot of other directors and screenwriters started thinking on and said, maybe I want to play that role too. So he was so instrumental to the fact that comics, really, I really do feel this, and it's not even Marvel, it's just comics in general. He is so instrumental in the history of comics, I nobody says this enough, for the fact that comics are still here. Because, you know, even when I was breaking into comics, working for DC, Valiant, Marvel, every comic book company, and then owning my own comic book company, everybody knew, because Marvel was the leading comic book publisher, that as Marvel goes, so does the industry. If Marvel fails, goes bankrupt, goes out of business, very hard to hold the industry together, because they're, you know, they're the biggest manufacturer of comics. You know? And I don't say that because with Marvel. I used to say this when I wasn't Marvel. So the fact that Kevin was there and put a flag in the stand and said, and brought in, I mean, so many new readers came because of him, younger readers too. That I really feel it's underappreciated, understated how important it was.
I came in on the strength of his birth. I was one of these high school, you know, angry young men who liked Kevin Smith movies, and that brought me in. And I was like, fine, I'm gonna buy all 4 of these books. If you'll indulge me a couple more Marvel Knights questions, we're gonna get some questions from you guys. But getting Christopher Priest, Jim Owsley, some people might know him under that name, a man of 1,000 names and 1,000 talents.
You know what I need until Priest, right?
Sounds like a story that this audience would want to hear.
I remember calling, I have history teacher, good history, not history, like theater or something.
I got this scar that he gave me.
I remember calling him up, and I was like, Joe, what is this? Christopher Priest? He's like, long story short, I just got divorced. When I married my wife, I told her if she ever left me, I'd be a priest. and he literally did it. He said he did it out of spite. He did it out of spite. Okay, I'm going to go myself first. Totally.
So you had it in mind, you know, from the point that you made the deal that you were doing Black Panther?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have history with he's always Jim Owsley. I'll tell you about Jim Owsley's story. So, because I think it's another reason why I'm here. There's so many reasons why I'm here, you know. But Jim, I think encapsulated it when I first encountered it. How I broke into comics is a long story itself, but I was coloring for Valiant. And
you were my favorite Super Mario Brothers colorist. I didn't realize I was a Joe Quesada fan until later.
There you go. See? I was coloring comic books, but Valiant was doing something interesting and in a lot of ways kind of dumb. We were hand coloring actual comic pages, like painting. It was incredibly time consuming. Now, I also broke it a little bit later than most people. I didn't really have an interest in doing comics until
you were a musician.
I was a musician for a very long time. Yeah. So I came in with a certain, I guess, sort of more adult acumen than a lot of people who were working there at the time. So, and they had a really cool atmosphere. who are actually in-house coloring these books. And for whatever reason, they thought it was prudent to pay artists by the hour. I'm sorry, I gotta laugh about that. Pay artists by the hour. All right, so you got all these young artists, right, that we're all sitting there and we're all painting these books. And by the way, so this has got to be 1990, right? So think of it in terms of 1990, because even in terms of today, they were paying us $14 an hour to, yes,
1990
to color
$14.
I left a really good job I had to just, $14 an hour, how am I making that?
You convert that to Canadian, that's a lot of money.
And a lot of plastic money, by the way, because your shit is plastic. It feels like that's right. It's slippery. And does it really smell like maple? Is that true?
Is that a real thing? No. It's true. I'm getting yes, I'm getting no.
See, I think it's something that it's a thing to make it. It's like the highest. Look at that. So it's $40 an hour. So I'm sitting there and I'm coloring, and I'm doing about 4 pages a day, right? I'm thinking this has to be done. And I do 4 pages, and these other young artists are literally these pages, and like half a page a day. I remember going out to lunch with these guys. Like a whole group was rolling out to lunch. I'm like, guys, you know this is unsustainable. You realize you guys have got to get faster. It's unsustainable. Lo and behold, like 3 months into my stint there, all of a sudden the elevator doors open and guys in suits come in, right? And I'm like, okay, this is good. Like 3 days of closed door meetings with Shooter and Steve Mazarski and those guys who ran the company, and the guys in suits leave, they're gone. And then Shooter's like, company meeting. Okay, so we all file into an office. Lo and behold, yeah, we're not cost efficient, and they literally fired 3/4 of the staff. Sorry guys, you're done, right? Being one of the newer guys, I'm gone. So he was just left, Shooter was just left with the people he started the company with. Because it was unsustainable. Everything else, I mean, nothing was, it was just, they were hemorrhaging money doing Super Mario Bros. Comics and nobody was wrong.
I mean, I bought, but I didn't buy enough.
Thank you for your support.
Look, I tried.
So now I'm unemployed. But I sort of knew this was coming. And I've been socking the money away. $40,000 an hour, I'd been paying rent. I was living with my girlfriend at the time. So I looked at my budget, I looked at everything I had. And one of the things that I was always, I'm digressing. And I knew that I had just enough money to survive 2 months of unemployment, well, I came out for 2 months, which meant I would give myself 6 weeks to find a comics job, because I knew that I could get something in 2 weeks. I could find a job somewhere, probably retail. So I took those 6 weeks, and I gave myself 4 weeks to put together a penciling portfolio, using whatever knowledge I used to ask a lot of questions of artists, because I started to think that this is really what I want to do. So I took 4 weeks and I put together that portfolio. Then I went back to Valiant Comics and I talked to Art Nichols, who was the art director at the time. I said, Art, I know you guys aren't hiring anybody right now, but here's my penciling portfolio. Do you know anybody I can go see? He said, nope. What do you mean no? I was like, well, when I left Marvel to come work here, everybody at Marvel hates me. I burned those bridges. And when I left DC to work for Marvel, I burned those bridges. I don't know anybody. And it's like, wait, I do know somebody. He just got hired by DC. It's this guy named Jim Housley, who's an editor over there. Let me give him a call. Okay. So I'm standing right next to Art, and I hear he calls up, hey Jim, it's Art. Yeah, how you doing, man? Hey, listen, I got this guy who's a portfolio, and I literally it's a truck. No, really, you're going to want to meet him. Okay, great, thanks. And he was just yelling at him on the phone. Like, I don't want to see anybody. And Art goes, he'd love to see you. Okay. So I literally run down and I get there, and I ask the receptionist, Mr. Oxley, she says, oh, great, she calls him up. Okay, great. He'll come out to see you. Okay, so this guy's in DC in his office. He's going to be in the lobby. So wait a little while. here comes this guy, Jim Owsley. He's like sweating, he's cantankerous, and he's like, yeah, Art told me I had to see it. All right, let me see your portfolio. Okay. So I went to my portfolio. Oh, you're actually good. Thanks. Well, he's like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I just got hired here, man. I'm new. And he worked at Marvel many years prior. He's like, I'm new. I drive a bus most of the time. And so I'm back in comics, and I got handed two really crap books. You know, they're TSR licenses, Dungeons and Dragons, and Spelljammer. You know, I got some stuff to develop. This is going to take me months. I'll tell you what. See this book, Spelljammer, see these 3 characters, just give me a cover, I'll call it an inventory cover, and, you know, come back when you're done. And, you know, right? So he got something like, cool, I got my first DC job. So I run home, and I do this cover immediately, and the next morning, I just show up at DC. And, hey, I'm here to see Mr. Owsley. Okay, receptionist calls out, I said, yeah, that guy. Okay, and she's like, he'll be out to see you alone. And he comes out, and I show him the cover. He's like, oh, that's great, fantastic. He's like, I'll give you a voucher, fill out the voucher, and I got nothing else for you, man. I'm sorry. Okay. And I gave him like my saddest, big, like sad clothes funny eyes. And he looks and says, you don't have a job, do you? I'm like, no, but by next week I can start looking. So yeah, it's kind of over for me. And I was like, okay, let me go and talk to Terry Cunningham, who's in charge of trafficking. So Bob Regan, who's in charge of trafficking. Maybe there's an open assignment, but I'm gonna be honest with you, man, the chances that there is an open assignment and that they're going to give it to some guy that's walked in on the street, not good, but, you know, I'll see what's out there. So I must have sat in the lobby 45 minutes an hour, and it's certainly not good. But I can understand why it would take so long to get an answer. The phone rings, the receptionist picks it up, and she says, Mr. Owsley, we'd like to see you in the small office. Okay. So I went through it. I walked into the office, and there's Jim, he's, you know, sweating, cantankerous. He says, let me ask you a question. What are the odds that while you're sitting out in the lobby, I get a call from one of my artists on my 2 crappy books, and he curses me out, we have a fight, he yells at me, and he quits. And I'm thinking to myself, based on what I see right now, probably pretty good. And I'm like, I don't know, I guess, you know, it's pretty astronomical. It's like, what are the odds that I would give this job to a complete unknown who just walked into these offices yesterday? I said, I can't imagine those odds are really high. He's like, and I remember he pointed at me, he said, well, from this point on, consider yourself the luckiest son of a bitch in the history of comics. And it's funny, right? But I never forget that, because from that point on, I never wanted for work, and every assignment I got was sort of the next step towards something else that I was hoping to someday achieve. And literally, sitting here right now, I am the luckiest son of a bitch in the history of comics. So that's my history with Jim Owsley. So when the Black Panther came around, Jim had just started to come back into comics at work. See how I had that one? See how I did that?
I was watching you architect. Yeah. That was a masterpiece.
And I couldn't think of anybody better to write Black Panther. So he was the first and only person I called on this book. And you know, and just, you know, again, the creation of, and to me, the greatest about Black Panther was not just the coming to America story, but it was the creation of Eric K. Ross, who was the fanboy of the book, and actually crossed that line where he would make off-color and oftentimes racist remarks that the Black Panther had to just sort of, you know, hey, wake up, stop, you know what I mean? That's not the world. So yeah, so I think Jim's take on that character to this day remains. Even though Ta-Nehisi Coates doing some amazing stuff, what Jim did was he brought the character back to the dead. It's really what he did. So.
Do you guys have questions out there? I'm going to start because he strategically sat himself in the perfect place. Right.
Hi, Joe. I'll start with a very quick question, if you don't mind. I've watched most of the Marvel movies and I've read many Marvel comics, and it strikes me that some of the Marvel films...
I'll give you such a bad echo.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Maybe just scream the question. I'm going to get to you.
I've watched a lot of Marvel movies, and some of the Marvel movies are great, but some of them, I think, are very poor representations of the comics. I'm thinking specifically of Civil War, which I think is a great series, but it's not a great movie to my mind. And I'm wondering if you guys, behind the scenes, ever discussed that, whether film can actually do justice to some of the good stories you guys have written over the years.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question. Yes, we have. There's a constant discussion. Let's be honest. Something like Civil War, to actually do what we did in comics, in film, it's really kind of impossible. It really is. Especially when you have so many different characters, so many different families. And it's something that we don't even own the rights to the film, right? Like Spider-Man, we're doing a Spider-Man movie now, but it's held by Sony. So what we do is we try to take the essence of Civil War, right? And the essence of Civil War, we can look at, it's the heroes versus the heroes, Stark versus Captain America. That's really part of the essence, right? We have that. But what really made Civil War interesting was the political and social questions it was asking, right?
That's exactly what I thought was missing.
Okay, but you know what? That story isn't finished either. You know what I mean? We're sort of, that movie sort of ends is really the beginning of what's about to happen. So there's a lot of those echoes of Mr. Burning. But I understand what you're saying. And he did work for you, I totally get it. You know what I mean? But we do have those discussions about how to best distill this down. You got 2 hours, 10 minutes, 15 minutes where you want to get these stories told. Sometimes it's impossible to hit all those things, especially if you have so many characters that you're dealing with. But Civil War, I think, is, again, it's a step leading into other stories, but I appreciate you thinking.
Yeah, I like how you guys have taken the titles of some things and extrapolated them into things that work in that big meta-narrative that you're telling throughout the film series. It has to gain something from the adaptation. In Civil War, we got Everett Ross.
Yes, we did. Yeah, and you got Black Panther.
And you got Black Panther. You got the threads and things. It's pick the work you want. Okay. You're the boss.
Two guys back there. So the guy in front here, and then the guy behind him.
I'd like to say first off, not to be argumentative, but I don't think Civil War could possibly have been done any better.
Plastic.
Like maple, man. Great. A couple of thank yous first off. Like a lot of people, I think that for obvious reasons got out of comic collecting in the 90s. What you did at Marvel absolutely brought me back into the fold.
Thank you.
One of those things I think was the fact that if I remember quoting you from your the Daredevil DVD interview, you made it fun, you made it proper again to pick a side. That was one of the best parts about growing up. You can enjoy both comic books, but you got to come down to one side of the fence on the other. This amalgam shit, we're all going to hold hands and get together. It's so good.
You know what it was about that? Listen, I have friends over on the DC side too. And some people I don't like. But I remember as a kid, right? You were one or the other, right? And Stan, see, we could call Stan a genius for a lot of things, and Jack and all those guys, right? One of the things that goes unsaid is, we live in a world today where companies, where brands are trying to create a brand lifestyle, right? So I buy Apple products, right? I'm very much into the Apple lifestyle. Like it or not, that's what I do. iTunes, Apple TV, I'm Apple everything. Stan was doing that for a comic book company. He created a Marvel lifestyle. You were a true believer, right? Hey, Bunky. Hey, he would write those soapboxes where you read them, and I know for the younger guys this is foreign, but I'm serious. It's hard to understand, right? So when I became editor-in-chief, I felt that one of the things that was missing was that rivalry. I'm also a big sports fan, right? So I happen to be on the short end of the stick. I'm a Mets fan as opposed to Yankee fans that are assholes. I think they played, you know what, we used to kick their ass every year.
There's a reason I brought this up.
I'm a very avid baseball soccer player, so we can do that now, but we used to kick their ass. Apparently, they had a game last month in Los Angeles, in LA now, and they kicked our ass. So,
Home field advantage.
well, this was not LA. So, anyway, but I know as a sports fan, my good buddy's a Yankee fan. We go at it all the time. We take piss on each other, and it's fun. So to me, I felt a lot of that was missing. We needed more of that passion, especially when we were just dying. And I wanted to get people talking about comics. And I don't care. Maybe it's a pro wrestling mentality, whatever. It was because I'm doing it. And so I didn't have Stan's ability. Stan has a ability of writing those soapboxes and making you feel like he's talking directly to you. And I remember as a kid reading these soapboxes and going, hey, Drew Lever, this is what's going on, right? And he would tell me the story of what was going on in Marvel that week or that month. And I would be reading this going, he knows me. He's talking right to me. Not realizing there's a kid behind me in the candy store is reading the same thing, feeling the exact same way. That's just mutant ability. I don't have that mutant ability, but I had the internet, right? It wasn't just rapport. So when I became editor in chief, one of the first things I decided was I want to start that rivalry again. I want to get into it, and so I would poke the bear, I'd poke DC, and people like, oh, Stanley would never. No, Stan used to do it. Stan used to call them the distinguished competitions. He would never call them DC, distinguished competition, or he would call them brand F. Right? Brand ECCH.
Not brand F.
Yeah.
I remember those.
So it was always out there. So why not? So I just did my version of it and had so much fun. And I just and then sales went up. But fans in comic shops were talking. Fans in comic shops were going at each other, And I could be the brother of the joke. It was fun. I don't think the guys at DC appreciated the jokes as much as I did, but I didn't care because my sales were going up. Sales were going up in general, and I was interested in the industry again. And I would do these panels, and people would get up there. I don't get that anymore. Now that I'm an energy, nobody comes up and yells at me anymore. Somebody will here today. But I used to get people get up and I'm so pissed at you. I'm like, okay, cool, it's great, you're passionate. I love that. So I'm sorry, I don't know if that was your question, but I didn't really have it.
Thanks. My question is, I'll get right to it.
Okay.
Cyclops is my favorite character of all time. I get a lot of shit for that. It's like, oh, it's boring. My argument against that is he's the only guy that gets to tell Wolverine what to do.
Right.
He bangs all the hottest broads in Marvel. And in terms of a field,
He's top rated.
second only to Captain America in terms of strategy.
Right.
So it's very disappointing to see what's happened to Scott Summers recently in the Marvel Universe. I love the younger Scott, and I'm getting a little bit of that back. My question is, without giving anything away, because I don't want spoilers, is my Scott that I grew up with beyond redemption? When we're going to get that back soon, I know. Is there any hope?
I don't think any character is beyond redemption. I mean, hell, we've redeemed Sabretooth to some extent, right? At some point. By the way, I don't know if you follow him or not, but there's a young filmmaker and comedy writer who works with Jimmy Kimmel's show. His name is Jeff Loveness, Loveness. He's written for us. He shares your passion of Cyclops. I mean, seriously, he's just like, that's his guy. Follow him on Twitter, okay? You guys, just tell him I sent you, get this guy. He's a good kid. But no, I don't think any character is beyond redemption. But, a lot of times when we do stuff like this with a character, I'll be honest with you also, I am not day-to-day in publishing, so I go to their big publishing summits and I kind of know what's happening. Sometimes I don't know exactly what's happening with every individual character because I got other fish, But sometimes we'll do this with a character, and I think Civil War is a perfect example about this, right? For a lot of people, depending on your point of view, but at that time, Tony Stark was perceived as the villain of that story. We, as a character, Tony Stark was a character that I can't say that writers didn't gravitate toward Tony Stark. He was a bit too perfect. It wasn't enough grist or meat on the bones that made a lot of writers really have that burning desire to write Tony Stark. Once he took a certain side of Civil War, a side that was not necessarily considered by fans at that time, the right side, Captain's on the right side. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to write Tony Stark because it was so gosh darn interesting, and we couldn't keep Tony Stark and Iron Man out of the books. I mean, everybody, he was everywhere, simply because of that position he took. So sometimes we will do things with characters, or turn characters in a way that we feel will make them interesting to write, give them a redemption, an arc of redemption, and just to see where it goes. But hopefully not to the point where we break a character, that they can't come back. That can happen too if you're not careful. So we do these things strategically, with a plan, but ultimately with two simple goals in mind. Well, one tenet is don't break a character, but the other tenet is give us something that creates the absolute best stories, especially in comic books, because that's the playground. Whatever, I always tell people who don't read the comics, who are really into the movies, when they say, well, what's coming up in the movies? Read the comics, because the comics are about 10 years, 5 to 10 years out. When you see the comics, if it's really big and really successful, pretty good chance it's going to be one of the movies down the road. So, I don't think Cyclops is non-redemption, but, with the books, it happens.
Got about 10 minutes left. Everyone trades for you guys. Questions? We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, yeah, John.
Well, I'll try and keep it quick.
I'm always one long, it's not either way.
Just to reiterate, that my friend in front of me here, I left comics in the 90s because Spider-Man has always been my number 2 fictional character of all time. Luke Skywalker is number 1.
You're a heaven there.
I left because I was sick and tired of symbiotes and clones.
Right.
I came back because Spider-Man became an event. And I think you were probably a big part of that decision. Thanks.
So you must hate me for more day.
How excited are you about the clone conspiracies coming up?
Dan Slott's writing it, so very. Anyway, I'm also a teacher. I'm an elementary school teacher. And one of the big things that I push my kids is that a mistake, a failure, is not something, it is not a defeat. It's something to learn from. I want to share with my students that I had a conversation, or that I was part of a conversation with you, and I wondered if you could give us an example of something you weren't too proud of in your career that you ended up learning from and succeeding.
Wow, I get asked that question a lot, and this sounds stupid, but I try not to look back too much, but I also, the one thing I preach this to my daughter's just 15 now, right? So she's like, I don't want to hear anymore. She doesn't want to hear anything right now, but she's 15. But one of the things and in my family, my wife is a pragmatist. Everything's black and white, deadlines have to be met, and I'm sort of the eternal optimist. And it drives me crazy sometimes because, things happen in life where you have disappointments. And I'm always like, it's going to be good. We're good. How did you be that way? Because I always look at life as lemonade, that old saying, right? So I preach lemonade to my daughter all the time. My daughter's a figure skater. So she spends 3/4 of her life falling down. Every figure skater does. 3/4 of your life falling down for that important moment when you need to hit that jump, right? To get that behind you. So she deals with disappointment a lot. So it's all about lemonade, So I've of course made mistakes during my life. I was really bad with deadlines. Really bad. And I wish I could blame it on partying or any of that stuff. I don't do drugs, I don't barely drink, It was just all a matter of my own sort of psychosis of trying to get it so right that I can't let it go. And I look at that, I'm no longer a problem in that sense, in the deadline sense. First of all, I'm married, I'm a janitor, which makes it easy. But I also, I learned from a lot of those mistakes, and I learned about, it's not just, I would get down on myself because I was so late and I would think later. But what I was lost sight of, because I also don't like to disappoint people or fuck with people's lives and mess them up. What I was losing sight of is that my lateness would then affect the anger and his salary, letter, and all the way down the road to the editors and stuff, and the chain of stuff just broke down all the way down. You know what I mean? And those were lessons I learned. But to me, I don't look back on those things as like I would do it differently if I could, because I learned from every one of those things. You know, and there's that old adage. I don't know if there's anything you can take back to your kids, but there's an adage which I feel is very, very true, which is the most successful people in life have failed more than most people even try to do anything. You know what I mean? Steve Jobs, to you name it. They have a library of failure that would stagger your mind. But like my daughter, 3/4 of her life is falling down. I mean, and it's that 1/4 when you hit that jump, when you hit that mark, when you hit that moment of success, that if you're ready for it, and by the way, that falling down is what prepares you for when you land that one thing, you hit it. When you do, you're prepared then to run with it. The old saying, there are no overnight successes. There are people that you hit it overnight, but I firmly believe also that your time at the top is directly correlated and attributed to how much time you spend at the bottom. So I have for every cover I do, there's a waste paper basket filled with sketches. I kid you not. Waste paper basket for every single cover.
So it's valuable, you can sell that, man.
Yeah, well, not digital, so screw that. But yeah, so that's the only thing. I mean, I say to my daughter, I say to any young artist, allow yourself to fall down. You know, and forgive yourself for it. That's the other thing. You have to forgive. I couldn't forgive myself. I couldn't. So that would just make it worse. When I learned to forgive myself, I learned that every artist has a waste paper basket full of stuff that they threw out before they finished a piece. But I was then able to just sort of let it go and just do, just sort of, it's very zen, but that's one thing, just forgive yourself and make lemonade, man. Make lemonade.
Can I share your comments with my class?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you about my personal favorite character, Squirrel Girl, who has recently seen an uptick in popularity.
That's the one that eats nuts, kicks butts.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I was just kind of wondering your opinions on her and the recent rumors flying around as her inclusion in the TV or cinematic universe.
Are you talking about internet rumors?
Joe, I've heard of the internet. It's a fascinating place.
It's always true. I will not comment on internet rumors, but I will comment on Squirrel Girl. Okay? I love Squirrel Girl. Love Squirrel Girl forever. A great story. Bennett writing the Avengers, right? And Luke Cage and Jessica Jones are going to have a baby. So he's thinking about who's going to be the nanny. It's a great idea, a nanny. And he's thinking, so Brian is thinking crafty commercial. Who's the biggest character we can put in there that can be the nanny? And I'm like, Squirrel Girl. And he's like, no, seriously. This happened in one of our big publishing summits, right? And it's gigantic. It's what you think it is, right? It's like a Justice League table, right? That's wrong. Avengers table. Massive table. And Brian and I are sitting exactly diametrically as far apart from each other as we can. And I'm like, Squirrel Girl. He's like, no, let's see, Scarlet Witch, Squirrel. And I just kept at him. And he thinks I'm joking. And I'm like, no, you don't understand how cool this is going to be. So eventually he used Squirrel Girl. And I think, from that point on, the Squirrel Girl comic is fantastic. I love that character. Love her. And I used to joke about it all the time. People say, who's your favorite character? I'm like, Squirrel Girl. Why? Because she squirts my nuts. Oh! There you go. But it's not a joke anymore. She's a great character. So, thank you. Back there. Yep.
I was going to ask about Punisher under Marvel Knights. Your first crack at it was one of the most unusual.
Bizarre, yes.
Ever. But then after that, you did Garth Ennis,
Yeah.
which was like definitive. And I was wondering if you could talk about the pivot between the two and what that was like.
Yeah, and again, that's one of those examples of we were looking for, when we were going to launch Punisher out of Marvel Knights, we're looking for new, fresh ideas on the character. And the Punisher, up until that point, it was pretty one note. The Punisher was what Punisher is. And the book had, gone the way of the dinosaurs. So, when Chris Goldman and Steve Donaldson came to us with that pitch, we thought, well, that's bizarre, it's weird, it's different, it's a good way to say, hey, we're doing something, we're going for it here, and it was also kind of a palate cleanser, because it just added some dimensions to Frank that were never seen before. So while that book was, not necessarily, it shocked a lot of people, so, and then we got Bertie Wrightson, so we were like, well, hell, we gotta do this. Bertie was a friend and another sort of dream creator that came aboard with us. But I also think that laid the seeds, so that when Garth came in, Punisher was, sort of going back to Frank, and welcome back Frank. People were ready for that as well. So I think one project led into the other, and then, of course, Garth took that and basically redefined the character and added that, sort of dark humor to it, and Manucci, of course, who said Manucci, but I love that character. So yeah, the thinking was, let's try something different, And then Garth came in. When that was done, Garth came in, and we tried Garth, and that went well. So cool. Anybody else?
We have time for, I think, 2 more questions.
Questions? All right, let's go to the front.
It's making good, very good.
Very quick, I just want to know, are we ever going to get a Marvel issue to number 50 again? Like, I love the relaunches, makes things fresh again. I just, as kind of like an OCD collector, where I have all my long boxes, are we ever going to hit issue 50 in a Marvel comic?
I honestly don't know. Ultimately, I don't make those decisions. That's done by sales and marketing. And in a lot of ways, it's so much of it has to do with just today's fan. You get that a lot from older fans. Boy, I wish we could have the actual numbering back, right? But so many people want to jump in on an issue 1, and it also, unfortunately, it helps sales. It really does. Atrophy is the way of the universe. Atrophy is the way of comics. It goes without saying. From the dawn of comic books, a number 1 will sell well, and especially, since it's going to the direct market, because I don't think it really mattered back in the newsstand is. But it's always been number 1 will sell great, number 2 will sell less, and so on and so forth. Sometimes you get lucky and a book will plateau, and it'll just stay there, like, okay, we're cool, right? But if you want to spike it, you put a number 1 on it. It's just the way of the world. So for those of us, myself included, we're OCD, it really sucks. But it is strictly done for the longevity of comics. It also helps to bring new readers, right? Because for those of us that are not accustomed to the world of comics, when you walk into a comic shop, if you shop, for hard copies, looking at the wall, just walking into the store, and let's say I heard about Squirrel Girl. I want to get into Squirrel Girl, right? Don't laugh, it happens. Something wrong. And you walk in, and you are confronted with what I call the giant pizza of comics, right? Just you don't know where your eye, you know because you've been there. You know exactly what you're looking for. But for a new person, it's daunting. So and for retailers, it's a lot of hard work too. So when a fan comes over and says, "Hey, I heard about this guy. Sure, let me start you out with number 1 or this trade paperback, whatever." So we're trying to make the shopping experience as simple as possible within a very complex story infrastructure. Because even just the fact of going into a comic book, if you're a new reader, right? Some 15, 16-year-old kid, and you walk in, and you're like, fuck, man, there's like 50-some years of Spider-Man. I can't catch up to that. So you have to make it palatable in some way where you can say, here, jump in here. And you don't have to go backwards. If you want, you can. But from here on, it's a good place to start. So that's a lot of the reason for the numbering, a lot of the reason for relaunching certain storylines and the way that we do things. The trick, though, for us, and this is where I do think we've been more successful than DC for years, is the fact that when DC did Crisis back in the day, I thought it was a great story. It was perfect. And by the way, that's kind of when I got into DC. It was perfect. Jumping on point. I could say, okay, good, I'm going to start here. Because I don't have to worry about all that other stuff. And unfortunately, when they did it once, and I thought it was perfectly fine, but when we do a lot of these relaunches, we try not to say stuff that happened in the past didn't happen, you know? So it's necessarily that we reboot. And like I like to say at Marvel, we don't have a crisis, so, you know.
Make sure that everything counts.
We try, yeah, we really do. We have to keep that in mind. We don't want to necessarily break it all down.
Last question, very good, very good.
Okay. So I don't know if you remember, 10 years ago, you drew me into your Ash comic for a wizard contest. Are you going to bring back Ash or any create your own stuff?
I don't remember, but congratulations. There are no plans for Ash right now, so I'm going to make that sure to pick up just some more questions. Right here, yes.
Thank you. You were talking about how the desperation of Marvel at the time bred all this new content and this creativity, and you and a handful of others brought, Marvel like the Phoenix back to life. But now that you guys are in such a cozy, comfortable position, what are your thoughts on the future of comics? How are you going to maintain the momentum that you have right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. I don't want to put too much credit on myself for this. I mean, it was a huge team of us that worked at Marvel and got over to this point. The people at Marvel will never allow us to get cozy and comfortable. Seriously, we are. I always consider us. We live like children of depression, man. Okay, we live in a constant state of you got to keep it up. You got to keep going. It's still not good enough. It can always get better, and I enjoy that. That's really why. That's why I stay there. I like that push. So that's the only thing. That doesn't guarantee you success, right? Because we can still suck at the end of the day. So I just want to make sure, but I always have that feeling of like, gotta keep going. You know what I mean? It's gotta get better. So yes, sir. Wait.
Hi, Joe. I'm Joe too.
Hey, man.
I'm a big Jessica Jones fan.
Cool.
And since the first season of Jessica Jones on Netflix was very clearly an adaptation of the Alias comics from the Max line, I was just wondering, is the new Jessica Jones comic coming out in the fall going to kind of serve as source material for season 2 on Netflix?
I can't answer that question because it would then tip my hand as to what season 2 is about, and I can't do that because what will happen is that Marvel and Netfllix ninjas that are situated right above me will come down and take me out. They're pretty badass. So, more like you, Ryan. Yes, sir.
Hi, the question is, which Captain America storyline surprised you the most while you were there?
Which Captain America story do I have to do what?
Yeah, surprised you the most is
Oh, surprise me. Español.
Yeah, I mean,
A ver, español.
Sí,
Ok, yo soy cubano, so no me pregunto.
los cubanos aquí.
Sí.
¿Podemos preguntar en español o en inglés?
No. So which Captain America story, what surprised me the most was when Captain America, when we killed Captain America, and
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, guys. And Bucky Barnes becomes a Winter Soldier. We were very concerned, what's going to happen to Captain America sales and stuff, and the book started to sell crazy. But the surprise came to me. I was doing a panel like this at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was a big audience there, and I said, okay, I want to show hands. And Captain was still dead, Steve Rogers was still dead. I said, how many people here like Bucky, Captain America, best? Half the room. Half the room. Steve Rogers, the other half of the room. That blew me away. Totally blew me away. Because as much as I know people like the Bucky Barnes one, I thought for sure that it would be about a third to 2/3. So that was a huge surprise. And actually, it was a good surprise because it just meant that we could then, once we spun Cap back in, we had a place to go to Bucky Barnes. That's a great question.
Well, the reaction you guys got when you announced the Winter Soldier movie was enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say in terms of just fan reaction to the title, the biggest reactions you got.
Yeah, it's great. So, okay, what's on there?
Yeah, we can take a couple more. We don't have anything after this. We can take a couple more. Are we allowed? We in trouble?
2 more.
Oh, we got permission.
All right, 2 more. Wait back. Right there.
We might see some more of these more female characters coming to the MCU.
Well, you know, the question was female, right?
Female.
Oh, female character.
She's dressed as Dennis Hopeless as Spider-Woman.
There you go. Well, I think you see that there's been a huge influx of not just female characters, but characters of all, genders, ethnicities, sexual preferences. I mean, this is just, the way the world is. It's one of the things that actually, as a kid, made me gravitate towards Marvel Comics. Because I remember opening my first issue of Fantastic Four, and there was this character called the Black Panther, right? So now, obviously I'm not African American, but in my neighborhood where I grew up in Queens, it was like a Benetton, okay? All my friends are from all over parts of the world, but something Cuban. So looking at that, all of a sudden I realized that Marvel, these were stories that were taking place in my world. Because it was a breakthrough, right? The first African superhero. So we've had a really good history. So obviously we always do better, right? But even through the 70s and 80s, X-Men became a sort of multi-ethnic team with female characters that were taking prominent and leading roles on the team. Again, breakthrough stuff at Marvel. So we are absolutely always doing this. But the one thing that I always caution about is trying to fill a quota. Because whenever I see a publisher say, okay, we need more Asian characters. So and you make it a quota, number one, it fails. Number two, it fails because it's not authentic. Three, it's not authentic because it doesn't come out of the natural creative process. What is happening now is that we have creators that it just comes out of the process, right? It's no longer like more familiar character, it just happens. And we're having a lot of success with that. You know, like, again, Ms. Marvel's a perfect example of this, right? Squirrel, perfect example of this, right? And there's more on the way. So are we going to be creating more female characters? We're just going to be creating more characters. Some will be female, some will be male, some will be gay, some will be trans. We don't know. I don't know what the future lies. We're just leaving it up to the writers and the artists. But it's a natural outcome of socially the world is becoming more, ethnically the world's becoming more diverse, right? As a people, we're more welcoming to diversity. The youth today, it's all about diversity. It's just natural, but that's a great question, thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that I really love that you guys have done is handing mantles over to other characters. You've got a Mexican-American Falcon, you've got an Indian-American Ant-Man. You're adding these characters in, and it's not box checking.
Yeah.
It's you're welcome at the table. Why haven't we had you at the table?
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, the characters have to stand on their own merit, and they're gonna, but on the merit also the people that are creating them. Like I often said, when I started at Marvel, there still aren't a lot of Latino characters, right? But it's growing. And I remember getting an email from someone saying, hey, why is it that I forget what was happening in our books. But I think 2 African American characters who died. I'm not placing this in the right time period, but it was about African American characters. And why is it that the African American character is done in this particular moment? And I tried to explain that, as a Latino, what I hope for Latino characters is that they go through all the permeations that an iconic Marvel character goes through. So when you think about an iconic Marvel character, right? Call it Spider-Man, Captain America, whatever they die, they get resurrected, right? Sometimes they die horrible deaths.
It's a rite of passage until you die and come back and become a character.
They're good, they become evil, they have terrible things. And the reason that terrible things happen to these iconic characters is because people want to write them. They want to write those stories. And so the day that there's a super uber prominent Latino character, I'll know it because they will be going through all these permutations. They'll die, they'll get resurrected, they will become a villain, they'll come back as a hero. And the reason that happens is because writers, particularly writers, want to write these characters. What happens in a lot of cases is that, and I've seen this happen, and sometimes it scares me, is because the internet, some people on the internet are really sensitive, it happens, right? There's a lot of sensitivity, a lot of outrage, sometimes very justified, other times not so much. But what happens is that creators get witchy, they get scared, it happens. So if you have a storyline, and let's say there's a Latino character, and the storyline dictates that this character is going to take the brunt of it, is going to die. I've seen second guessing. Okay, we can't kill the Latino character, we're going to get male. And I'm like, no, just do your story. Don't worry. If it fits the story, if you feel like this is the most compelling character to go through this, then do it. But what happens is if we start following those second-guessing instincts, those characters, diverse characters who we're afraid may get negative fan mail, don't get used. They get put on the sideline. And before writers found kind of boring. They wanted to add some meat, you know. So these are the tightropes that we walk, you know, and my job is to sit there and remind creators, no, just go. We write and we create without fear. We have to go forward and do it this way. So, cool.
Let's go. We have one more, man. It's really, really good. Best one in the
I
universe.
guess in line with that, we've seen, like you say, a lot of characters going up and down. Thor/Odin's son has always been one of mine. Obviously, he's gone through a lot of iterations, some real highs, like the Walt Simpson series, some lows. Now he's going through, I guess, a process where I guess he's trying to figure himself out. Any thoughts on how that's going to move forward, and what does that mean to the movies also going forward?
Well, I hope he's already pre-ordered The Unworthy Thor at his local comics retail.
That's true. It's true. I cannot answer that question. I cannot. Let's get some maple on. You got some maple on? You know, I can't because I'm tipping the hat. You know, publishing and tipping the hat on Thor in the movies, but you know, fun stuff to me in the movies. I'll tell you that, and comics as well. So, all right, are we almost done? Black my heart, man. Look at that.
Do you personally think there will ever come a day where a mantle gets passed permanently and a character will be retired permanently? For example, 20 years from now, do you think no one getting introduced to comics will know who Peter Parker is? There will only be Miles Morales Spider-Man, or only be Sam Wilson Captain America, and Steve Rogers will be a thing of the past?
You know, I can't say never. I honestly can't predict the future. It's a matter of, you know, what the world looks like and what the world wants. Nick Fury's a great example of that, right? You know? So I don't know, honestly don't. You know, and the fact that we have characters like Miles, you know, in the same world there is phenomenal to begin with. So who knows? I honestly, you know, I can't tell you definitively one way or the other.
I've got a tag for that to wrap us up. Joe has another Q&A tomorrow at 1.
Yes.
So you should definitely come to that. We'll be taking questions too. Yesterday when I was talking to Stan on stage, somebody brought up, well, you know, why doesn't Peter Parker ever get old? Well, I don't know. I don't know if they're ever going to run out of stories to tell for Peter Parker. My Stan is terrible. Terrible. You know Stan way better than I do. You've interacted with the man. You know, what is it like, you know, being the guy who's had the ear of the great creator?
Well, the one thing you have to understand about Spider-Man, first of all, is a two-part question. And like I said, we always want our characters to sort of grow with us. And we have to remember that younger generation fan that's coming in who wants Peter Parker, you know, 15, 16-year-old Peter Parker. So that's a title that we have to walk. But I'm going to end on a stance, sort of, to give you a stance. So you set me up here. So
set it up, you knock it out.
This is important. So going back to my Marvel Night stage, we take over a segment of the Marvel office. They gave us an office, actually. They gave us a penthouse office. There was at the Marvel building. They had built. There was a stairwell that went up to the roof, and they had built like a sort of shack on the roof that had like 3 offices. They gave us this, so we were up on the roof. It was crazy. I remember calling Stan. Just cold calling Stanley, had no idea who the hell I was. Introduced myself, and I said, Stan, I've got these 4 pictures for these books, Daredevil, Punisher, right? And I said, do you mind if I read it to you, get your feelings? And he said, yeah. So I read him these pictures, and he just sits there, and he listens. I've been listening to him with me for an hour, and he gives me feedback on each one of them. And then, just on a lark, I said, Stan, I gotta ask you, is there a formula to building the perfect Marvel character? Now, that was a rhetorical question. I was not expecting to answer it anyway. Let me tell you something, Joe. It is a formula. Holy shit, he's going to give you the formula. It's a pretty great concept. Here's what it is. Imagine a panel. It's Spider-Man. He's on the precipice of a building. He's looking over the city. And he jumps. Pretty cool, right? Like, yeah, it's cool. Nobody gives a shit. What? Joe, it's just a red and blue suit. Tell me who's inside that suit. Tell me who's inside that suit. Tell me who it is. Tell me who he loves. Tell me who loves him. Tell me what he does for a living. What his passions are. What his disappointments are. What his failures are. Tell me everything about him. Now when he jumps off the precipice of that building, it's not a red and blue suit. Joey, you're inside of him. You are him. It's like, fuck! And then, drop the mic and hung up.